each of us, as we represent people, we are talking to moms and dads, and in my case, Tennesseans every weekend. Crime is at the top of the heap. They are so concerned about crime in the streets and safety of their children and their families, and the positions you're taking and the nominations you have for a federal bench is something that we take our responsibility very seriously to make certain that we have judges that are going to abide by the Constitution, who believe in the rule of law, and are going to hold steadfast in that as they carry out their duties. Just a couple of questions. And Judge Thompson, I'd like to come to you. I want to ask you about the Kevin Sawyer case, which was a 1997 trial. He had 17 sexual assault charges for raping, stalking, attacking 5 different women. And I know at least in one of those, it was DNA evidence that tied him back to the attack. And in defending your client, you argued that DNA testing methods give unreliable evidence, and you plan to challenge that testing method during a separate court hearing. So if you're confirmed, then you will likely handle criminal cases where DNA evidence is going to be crucial in proving that case. So given your prior statements, how can prosecutors know that you're going to be fair and impartial when it comes to making those decisions on the admissibility of DNA evidence?
Thank you for that question. That was perhaps over 25 years ago when I was
97.
When I was a attorney in private practice. At that time, DNA evidence was fairly new. And at that time, I remember talking to Judge Clint White and letting him know that I do paragraphs, not graphs. And I had tried to stay as far away from science as I could when I went to law school. But he said, you have to attack your fear. Read, learn, and teach. And that's what I did. So I immersed myself in the study of DNA evidence. And at that time, there still were some areas that were not clear, that the science had not been fully tested. And my duty as a Sixth Amendment lawyer was to provide my client with all of the legally available defenses. When I'm representing someone back in those years, it was not my case, it was not my accusation, but it was my duty to represent the person I was charged with representing in court.
Yeah, but what I want to know is prosecutors are going to come to you with the DNA evidence. In many of these cases that involve rape, involve assault against women, that is used. So how will you approach that? How are prosecutors going to know you're fair and impartial on that?
Thank you for that question, Senator Blackburn. I've been on the bench now for 20 years, and I have handled some of the most egregious cases you can imagine, many of which have even been sexual assault cases. Probably one of the most violent sexual assault cases involving human trafficking was heard in my courtroom. The facts underlying that case are too horrific to share in this audience. The people of the state of California have reaffirmed my position on the bench every 6 years without challenge.
Okay, I feel like you're still not giving me a direct answer, but I do want to move on, and I would appreciate a response in writing on that.
Absolutely.
I think that's vitally important. Mr. Monteiro, I want to ask you about your support for March for Our Lives. They oppose the Supreme Court's decision in District of Columbia versus Heller, and you've tweeted support for March for Our Lives. And so do you share March for Our Lives' view that Heller is a dangerous precedent that must be overturned?
Thank you for the question, Senator Blackburn. And I believe that tweet was from a local campaign Twitter account in 2018. The CRS certainly doesn't weigh in on issues of any judicial decisions or legislative
I understand
considerations.
that, but it does speak to your philosophy and your approach.
Yes, absolutely, Senator Blackburn. And Ranking Member Grassley asked me about my commitment to not doing anything in this role that would infringe on anyone's Second Amendment rights.
Okay.
And I made that commitment under oath.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some other questions I'll submit for written answers.